Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hey everybody, and welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You are listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 10th of December, 2017. That's right, kids, there's only like 3 or 4 more weeks of the year. Wow, we are almost done.
Nuts.
Always comes so fast, but that's all right. We're here, we're going, and we're ready to have fun. All right, with that, everybody, we're going to kick things off right away with a little bit of
functional deviations.
As we are joined by our good friend Ken. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm okay. It was a bit of a challenge to get in here today, to be honest. Not in terms of time or in terms of my work being done, because that's always a challenge. Instead, it was more to do with the weather today. It's currently minus 6 degrees Celsius here, which the coldest it's been all year, and the coldest I've ever had to drive in. So that was a little difficult. So it's currently 21 degrees Fahrenheit here is what that means in American. So
below the freezing.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly. It's the first time I've had to drive in the new car in ice in general, and it's also the coldest I've ever had to drive in. And that wasn't really the problem. The problem wasn't necessarily driving itself. The problem was more the fact the car was completely frozen and I had to defrost it.
How long did it take you before you were able to drive after you got in and started?
Well, not too bad, because you see, I have antifreeze inside the windscreen washers, so generally speaking, when it gets a little bit icy, I just slap that on, and it cleans it. It's fine.
Nice.
However, this time, the antifreeze inside of it was frozen.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, that was inconvenient, to say the least. And so I took the bottle out itself, and I had to actually pour all over the windscreen and then turn it on, the windscreen wipers on manually.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
And that worked. It just took a little bit longer. But my car also has the heated windscreen, front, back, and mirrors, so it's pretty nice because I don't have to worry too much about that kind of thing. Because I just turn it on and it pretty much unfogs after a few minutes or whatever else. So it's
nice.
I can't really complain. So compared to my old car where that would have taken me about 20 minutes, it took maybe 5. So and then no scrubbing or anything required, just a little bit. Apart from my windows to the left and right. Otherwise it was really easy. So that was a little crazy having to drive in though, because it was so cold. The steering wheel was almost painful to touch.
Oh, ouch!
Just that cold, and it made me wish for, when I had my old car, I never wished for a better car because I didn't know what that difference
that better
was
existed.
Yeah. So I was perfectly happy with my old car until it stopped working entirely, and at that stage I sort of said, all right, I need to once I actually got the new car, I've ever since been sort of okay, I now know of the existence of how much nicer this is. Now imagine if I had a heated steering wheel and I don't know, better ways of functioning with the with the weather and whatever else, right? There's a lot of potential niceties there, and I'm I would like all of that. Like all of that.
Oh, that's one of those things that when I got my Escape, and I originally was looking at a Jeep, was it the little new Jeep Patriot or something? I forget which one it was, and as I was checking them out, the ones that are around town had most everything I wanted when I was looking at the Jeeps, except they didn't have the full heated package, the winter package. And the guys kept telling me, come on, do you really need the winter packages? Dude, we live in Colorado, it snows, and this gives the convenience of, and the biggest one for me was heated side mirrors, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to scrape my side mirrors. Let alone on the Jeep, and it's a feature I didn't get on the Escape, but would have been nice, was a heated steering wheel. And they kept saying the heated steering wheel. I was okay, admittedly, steering wheel, not so much. But the side mirrors and, the extra defrost stuff and things like that, yeah. Every time, yes. And so... Yeah,
I mean, it must only be 10 days a year we have to actually bother with ice and stuff. But still, just having... But it does fog up a lot, though. So having the heated side mirrors, etc., is still very, very, very useful. And I'd say I'd use it probably half the time.
Scrape those? Oh, God. Mm-hmm. I hate having to scrape side mirrors. Well, so for me, another one is... Okay, and other people have made fun of me for this, but having a remote start on my car.
Oh, I wish I had that.
It is one of the nicest little things I did for myself ever. I don't care if it's summer, winter, whatever. I use it all the time. And as I go out to work, especially, I'm walking down the parking lot and I can see my car way in the distance. I'll do it and say, oh, the lights came on, start. And so by the time I get there, it's nice and ready to go. And most, the heat's kind of already ready to defrost, things like that. It just makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, damn right.
As well as, what was the other thing? Because that's a big part of it. Oh, like in the morning, when I get up in the morning first thing, when I know, because it'll run for 15 minutes at max and then it shuts itself off. But I'll have it go where I was like, okay, I'm finally finishing kind of like getting dressed and everything on there. And once I do that, it's like, okay, now I'm going to start the car as I make my lunch or something like that. And so I'm usually able to walk right out there and it's just nice and warmed enough where it's ready to go. And so nice. I'm really like excited about this. So it's one of those things I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, all these different features. Like another thing was I got in a buddy of mine's car who has a Jag, and just seeing like when he reverses, it pops up on his little like he's got obviously an iPad in the middle. Yeah, it shows him and it has like lines showing him like how much he should turn and stuff to get a perfect park.
Yep. Oh god.
Yeah.
My ability to parallel park with my thing where I just hit the button and put it in reverse and it tells me it does the wheel for me.
Yeah, I want that.
And at first I was like, nah, but now that I use it, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I have parked in tighter spots than I would have ever been comfortable. And so no, it's brilliant. Yes, I like tech as a whole. And yeah, so I'm excited. So that's cool though. It's one of those things that's funny because it's when you hit something like winter where things change, where the environment gets different, that I start noticing or thinking about those nice to haves. The things that are like, oh yeah, that would be nice. I kind of wish I also had that. Things like that. It's just so that's cool.
Yeah. No, I totally. So yeah, I finally got in today, and I'm here for the show, and that's good.
Awesome.
But again, I've had a very dull week, so I don't have much to really talk about here. It was Kitten's birthday though. That was exciting. On Thursday. So
what'd you guys do?
Had fun. So I took her out for dinner. To a place that we'd never been before, so it was a bit of a risk. But we like to try new things. We both do. So that's what we decided to do with our time. And we went out to this new place. It was about a half an hour drive, and it was nice. Ooh. It was a nice place. So it was in the middle of nowhere. It was this A-frame building that's just sort of honestly, it's in the middle of the countryside, and it was so dark by the time we left because our booking was at 8 p.m. Okay. And it was just completely dark outside, and we're just all these back country roads that went down to like single lane roads, right? So and it was very hilly as well. So I was like, you couldn't see anything, and then suddenly you're driving like all like diagonally up, and you're like, I hope nobody comes rushing down this hill in a second.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can there be a restaurant out here? It's in the middle of freaking nowhere. I've not seen any traffic or anything. And we get there, and there's only like 4 or 5 other cars there. So I was like, okay, I think it's the right place. And the building's beautiful. This gorgeous, like, wooden building. And it looks just like the perfect, like, retreat in the middle of winter. You can imagine lots of log fires inside and all that kind of thing. And we go in, it's super warm and lovely inside. They have a huge cocktail menu. And they have just really fancy food on. I think Kitten went for the seafood platter.
Okay.
Which had like salmon and squid and I don't know, loads of stuff. And I went for the ox cheek risotto.
Oh,
which
interesting.
Is something I've never had ox cheek before.
No, it's a very specific cut.
Yeah, and it was very good actually. It was very tasty, and more importantly, it was something different. So that's kind of why I did it. So yeah, it was good fun. And that's what we did. She also went out last night, 2 nights ago, for her birthday with her girly friends. They did girly things. And they ended up going out in Glasgow and spending the night there in a hotel room. And they ended up going to a couple of bars and stuff. And thankfully, and you'll wonder why I said thankfully, but they actually found a biker gang.
Okay.
the Blue Angels, I think they were called. They're like an offshoot. They're like the British version of the Hells Angels. They're like an offshoot or whatever. And I say thankfully because these guys were like nothing but gentlemen to the three girls. Now you can imagine three girls in their 20s, all quite drunk, and falling about the place wearing pretty dresses and stuff. It can be somewhat dangerous going around in a big city like that, right? Like I don't think I would disagree with
there can
that.
be concerns, but hopefully everything good.
Right.
Yes.
So obviously we hope there's nothing ever does go wrong, but there's a possibility that stuff does. And yeah, so I was a little concerned about that, but they met these like random biker dudes, these huge like sort of stereotypical guys, like bald and really big and covered in tattoos, leather jackets and stuff. But every time, like they said, that every time somebody tried to hit on them or anything, the biker guys just sort of like stood up and looked to whoever was coming over, and they backed away. So the biker dudes were like really nice and like buying them drinks.
Oh,
and
that's great.
They invited them to a party afterwards, but they said no thanks. Like, okay, that's no problem. Have a nice night, get home safe, etc. Like, and that's great. It's so nice to hear the story where there's like really nice dudes out there being nice people, instead of what you often hear, people being assholes. So it's really lovely to hear.
No, that's great.
Yeah, so they enjoyed that and they had lots of fun. And Karen I think she's still kind of recovering, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, they had a lot to drink and they had lots of fun. And then they went to bed at 4 a.m. and left the hotel at 8, I think, in the morning. So yeah, they were pretty tired when I picked them up on Saturday morning.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think they had fun. Other than that, I only have 13 days until I go to Geneva for Christmas, which is crazy.
Ooh.
So I haven't actually really... Yeah, I know. So I haven't really considered what this is going to do to the show. Because...
We will survive!
Well, I don't know, one, how internet access is, or two, whether I'll be deemed rude while I'm staying with my family.
I have found that family tends to be super good about it. Doesn't matter who you go, as long as you just explain. Like, hey, on Sundays we do this show. All I need to do is be able to go sit in a corner somewhere in another room, preferably, for 2 hours.
Use the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. And just use it for 2 hours, just to do this quick Skype call. And it's all it is a Skype call I do for 2 hours where I'll talk. I make it a little boisterous because it's a show. And that because I've done it from California, I've done it from cons, all this other stuff. And people are usually pretty cool with it. As well as I usually offer for anyone family to like jump in if they want to say hi.
So the other thing is it'll probably be from my phone, which I think is going to be good enough quality.
That should still be fine too.
I don't think guests.
Well, as long as you use a headset and have the built-in mic or something, you should be fine. Because that way, it's just mine running the rig, so that should be good.
Cool. Okay, great. Then yeah, I'll certainly try to. We'll see how it goes.
Christmas weekend, I may be in Albuquerque, but I will take my rig with me, my mobile. And so should still be able to do the show for that weekend as well, just leading up to Christmas. And then New Year's, I think we should be fine because New Year's Day is actually after the weekend. And so for the rest of the holidays, though, I think we're probably good. So if nothing else, I believe I will be available for all of them, and we'll get you in here, Ken, as best we can.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. The only thing is, Christmas Eve. I wouldn't be surprised if if Kitten said to me, "Let's not do the show today because
that's
spend
fine.
time with family and such."
Yeah. No, that's fine. Like I said,
so
it may be a challenge.
Jammies and watching films and stuff. So
yeah,
I think
which is funny is because as I talk about what my day is, there's stuff like that happening in my house right now. But anyhow. No, that's problematic. You guys keep an eye out for the show. If there's any missteps or details, we will put it in on the front page for VTW, as well as on the Facebook page for Show X. So check that out. All right.
Absolutely.
What else have you been doing that hasn't been geeky and such, sir?
The last thing is actually nothing to do with me per se, but the art contest has now been posted for the next one available.
Oh, good.
I put it up just before the show. I said I'd do it last week, but I didn't. But it's now up finally.
What are our categories for the next contest?
Yeah, so the new themes are Hogmanay, alcohol,
New Year's, drinking.
Yep, New Year's. Yep. Square. I don't know where that came from. Snow.
A shape.
Which is monochrome, which again can really cover any field of art out there. And
I'm just gonna go take pictures of like old either like calculator screens or maybe like an old monitor or something. And it'll be a color pictures of like old monochrome technology.
Hey, I'd be okay with that. Yes, that's an interpretation of the theme after all. Hey, I'm fine with that.
That's all right.
So there's actually. So have you been doing more with the friggin'?
I've been too busy to get
Guru
any more
Shots.
shots posted for Guru Shots. I've been watching it. And I see some of the new contests there that I want to participate in because they did another cover one, which I mean, admittedly, the shots I see people put on there are amazing. You should do some of your like foggy nighttime or early morning shots you do in Scotland. Those are gorgeous. That would work. So I need to find more shots of mine I can do. There's a few out there. And so I've got some I need to take care of, but I haven't been doing it actively yet just because I've been doing so much other stuff recently. But yeah, so I do plan on partaking more, and I plan on doing more than one shot in the next art contest. Now I have the themes together. I'm going to keep those on hand as I walk around and try to purposely set up some shots and not just find any. So we'll see.
Cool, that'd be good. Yeah, I'm currently taking part in every single challenge apart from the newbie challenge, which I'm now banned from because I'm no longer a newbie. So I've taken part in everything, but sometimes I'm really struggling. Like, in fact, the square theme that's in our art contest is actually inspired by the B square contest that got put up 2 hours ago on Guru Shots.
Interesting.
And I didn't really have many pictures that sort of fit in with that. So I've got 3 out of 4 submitted, and I can't for the life of me find a fourth of all the photos I've ever taken. I can't find anything else square.
The challenge.
Same with the one that's playing with numbers. I just can't. I only found 2 out of 4.
Yeah, I was looking at that one. That one's tough for me because I don't have anything that really shows off either numbers or calculations or things like that.
I put in a picture of code that I took a while ago, and that's not been getting many likes though. To be honest, it's only got 48 votes out of 500 views, which is pretty crap. But I took a picture of a Bible years ago, and it's a really nice shot actually. And it's got 1,100 votes over 3,000 views, so which is much nicer. One out of 3 instead of 1 out of 50 or whatever it was before. So yeah, I do struggle with some of the themes, but other ones are quite easy to take part in. But yeah, so the art contest has all those themes and one more as well, which is the quote: "Women think of all colors except the absence of color. I have said that black has it all. White too. Their beauty is absolute. It's the perfect harmony."
Interesting.
And that's a quote by Coco Chanel.
I like that quote because that speaks to a lot of basically kind of like monochrome, but even different because it can be color, but with some very specific subjects. I like that.
Yep, it really lets you play with the idea. So please do play with that if you wish. People out there are lots of fun stuff to try out there. If you may have not tried before. And that's everything for me. So, sir, what have you been up to?
Alrighty, and I don't myself have a ton, and admittedly this is going to be a challenge to fill the full time, as I will be running around and during the break to make sure my guests are all doing well. But to start things off, might as well talk about that first. What's going on in the house that I am not actively participating in, but I've been prepping for over the last 2 days. 3 days, actually. Or more, geez. I started prepping, think Wednesday, but really, Wednesday night. What it is, and I got this from a friend who's actually here right now. Last year is for the Christmas holiday. We got together at my friend Rachel's house and we decorated Christmas cookies. Basically just set up with her and a couple of her friends, and she does it as tradition where made a bunch of sugar cookies, got a bunch of icing out, frosting, and sprinkles and stuff, and just makes all kinds of different designs so people can have their own Christmas cookies to take home and be able to share with family or just enjoy themselves. So this year I asked if she was doing it again. She wasn't because she's going to be traveling off for Christmas this year. But I thought, well, I'd still like to. And so I put out just a random invite to a bunch of my friends and said, hey, let's decorate Christmas cookies. So in doing so, they are actually right now in my other room decorating cookies. But to prep for it, I wanted to start by trying to make some keto-friendly cookies. And so
that sounds like a challenge.
It is, and I found a couple recipes out there that do work with ketogenic diets. In them, I will say so. But
so,
they mostly
for the benefit of our listeners at home, can you describe what the difference between a normal cookie and a keto cookie is?
Essentially, you're trying to minimize the amount of carbohydrates that are available in the recipe, the amount of carbs you might ingest. So, in that, instead of using traditional like flour that you would normal wheat flour or anything like that, or white flour, they go for either coconut or almond flour, nut-based, which tends to reduce the carbs a lot. Although the texture changes. You also tend to avoid regular sugars and things like that. Instead, do some of the artificial or sweeteners that are different than stevia, the various types of sweeteners, whatever it is out there that you like.
Stevia is not artificial, though, is it? I thought stevia was like based on a plant-based.
Well, a lot of them are based on some artificials, just any one of them that aren't traditional sugar kind of based ones that have low carbs or no carbs. Because initially you're not going to go 100% zero carbs on cookies, but you're trying to reduce it significantly less than you would with a traditional recipe.
Okay.
And often they're a little fattier, so you add a little more butter in them and things like that to increase the fat load on it so that it stays with ketogenic where you want more fat, a little bit of protein, and as few carbs as you can. So I tried a couple recipes. I had one that was cinnamon one that I actually kind of liked. It wasn't too bad. But the other challenge with keto cookies is they stay a little soft because of the amount of butter you use and such, which makes them really difficult for like Christmas cookies where you want to use cookie cutters to design stuff and like
Sure.
actually cut things out and things. So it's like, man. And so I tried a couple of the recipes. The other one was interesting because it didn't use cinnamon in this case and it used a little different amount of flour, more butter and such, but they did it where this other one actually used mozzarella cheese in it.
Jesus.
And it's,
Okay.
and it's interesting because it kind of almost gives it like a sourdough-ish taste to it, but with a little bit of the sweetness from the sweetener. So it's an interesting kind of a biscuit that, like, I'm trying to think, almost like something you would better have with a sweet tea that would go as a good side of it because it's not so sugary itself.
Okay.
And so it actually kind of do a good balance. Made those as well. Now, those came out kind of interesting. I better liked the what was it? Let's see. Let's see. I am having to message to the other room because they're asking how do they put on DVD.
Live tech help. That's IT. That's IT
It's
right
just
there.
funny because they're trying. I have with my new TV and with the receiver and everything how it's all remoted in, but I don't have my universal remote working quite right with it. So it's having to say like, okay, you have to set this to HDMI 1, this to HDMI 2, for whatever you're doing, but it should be fine. Let's see. So they're just asking how to put it in a movie because they're playing Christmas movies while decorating.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Oh yeah, no, this is such a cheese event. Just so you know, this is as silly as it can be. So yeah, but with that, the cookies they came out okay. The cinnamon one I kind of liked. The other ones with the cheese are different. Like I could eat them, but as it was best described by others, they tasted a little bit like flat or like kind of flavorless pancakes because they have kind of a soft texture to them, and not a lot of flavor because it's minimal anything, which was kind of Now, one of my friends did try the icing that I made for the regular cookies. Essentially, I gave up on those and just made sugar cookies across the board. Like, here you go,
Okay.
regular sugar cookies. Cut out a bunch of shapes and stuff, and they're all icing them now. And I used regular convection sugar, powdered sugar, with a little bit of milk and made it up for icing. Put them in a bunch of bowls, and they had food coloring, and they got a bunch of different colors. And so I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-ish people right now making cookies in there, in the other room. And I put on initially, there was a Disney movie, I think. It was kind of a Disney's Christmas, like 3 stories together thing with Goofy and Donald Duck, all that. Anyhow, so watching movies, playing Christmas movies, icing Christmas cookies, although some are just geek cookies because I'm a geek. And
Nice.
just kind of having a fun, get ready for the holidays kind of day. And so that's a lot of fun. I will, during the break, run out there again. Oh, and I did, just for the sake of viewers, I made a quick cookie in the moments I was getting ready, which is just a smiley face. But I'm actually really happy with how the frosting came out because it's just that sugar, but it crisps up nice. Now, it's a little thick, so I can actually pound into it, but it actually dries really nice. I'm happy, super happy, because I made everything. I did all the recipes from scratch. And so that makes me feel good. Baking! Also, let's see, what else was it? So, speaking of Christmas moods and such, last night, and I know there's more and I can't find them all, but last night I went out to a concert, Christmas-themed concert. One that I think a lot of geeks will recognize because we had an artist come through that does a lot of geeky things. This one being Miss Lindsey Sterling.
Hey,
And
named
so-
after the best city in the world.
So people who know Lindsey Sterling, she's famous for doing some covers of some geek songs because she plays the violin. She also is a great dancer, and she does them both together in a way that would defies the ability of like, how can you dance and play the violin, keep the bow on the strings that well while doing what you're doing dancing around? It's phenomenal. So I've been to one of her concerts before when she first came to Red Rocks, which was beautiful last year or a year before. And this year she came out and she did basically an entire Christmas-themed show, and she's touring during the winter.
Oh, that's sweet.
And she is adorable as all get out. And it's kind of fitting because she's like super religious and all these things and stuff like that. And she talks about it in the show like God, this, and it fits because it's like, it's Christmas, of course. This is what it's about, blah, 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 right? But it was just super adorable. And the show was amazing, and the medleys she had put together were just fantastic. The light show and just all of it. She was just fun, and how professional like all the choreography and was beautiful. It was a beautiful show. I was so happy. Got dressed in like a little Christmas type sweater and went out to it and just really enjoyed myself. Had a great time.
Lovely.
And she's awesome, right? And this kind of even more getting into the Christmas season. I am a sap for wanting to do Christmassy things. I look forward to hopefully getting a bunch of friends together and driving around and looking at Christmas lights. Just stupid things. I already have presents under my tree for some of my friends and things, and just dumb stuff. Anyhow, but with the concert, one thing I did want to bring up is that Lindsey Sterling was also recently on America. What is it? It's Dancing with the Stars.
Okay.
Which I felt like she had a severe advantage because she dances for her shows all the time. Apparently, she came in like second or was on the finale but didn't win because I didn't actually watch the show. Also, with that though, her dance partner, if I'm not misquoting this, is this gentleman that she also brought on tour with his wife as their opening act. I believe that's the case of if I heard it right when she was talking about it. Regardless, the opening band is this couple called Alexander Jean. And it's essentially each of their middle names together. And they are a phenomenal little group. They recently went out, and I suggest people, it's me recommending a band just because I just found them yesterday. They have a new song for the holidays called We Three Kings, just re-singing that. But it's Alexander Jean doing We Three Kings on YouTube. And apparently they've really started kicking up as kind of a independent songwriter kind of group. So I'm recommending. I went, and because of that, now these CDs are tiny. There's like 5 or 6 songs each. But I bought both their CDs at the concert, which very rarely do I buy anything at a concert. But also it was fun because afterwards they were doing signings. And so I got to get a picture taken with them, and they signed the actual CDs themselves, which is really cool. But I recommend, for me, at least live. It's funny because on the album, I feel like they sound a little too controlled or like too nice. Live, they were like raw and gritty, and the gal had like this very, to me, Janis Joplin sound to her. This little grab like in her voice that just sounded amazing. So just throwing out there because it's like brand new music I found that I was totally not expecting that I really enjoyed. So went to the Lindsey Sterling concert, totally celebrated the whole Christmassy thing, came back, did not sleep. I basically, since probably Thursday afternoon or something, I have not slept well. Partly because Thursday I went down to go train in Castle Rock like I do, which would have been fine and dandy, except Denver got a crazy, or actually not even Denver, southern Aurora into south of us got a crazy sudden snowstorm where it got down like that day, Thursday, while I was at work. It was what? It got down to, for your math, -7, almost -8 centigrade or Celsius.
Oh, geez, that's freezing.
During the day. So 18 degrees basically do the day. And the low point had been like 13 or so. Well, driving down, it also suddenly started getting moist, and so it started snowing. And it was so cold during the day that on the roads, it turned to just a sheer sheet of ice. And so I was driving down and coming out of my house, it was lightly snowing. Like, oh, okay, no big deal, a couple flakes. Going just south of town and going up the hill towards Castle Rock, all of a sudden it was just ice. And such an ice rink that people might have saw a post of mine as I was going through, and I was going bumper to bumper super slow because you couldn't go fast. Where there were trucks, like huge lorries, semis that were jackknifed on the road. There were several vehicles that were flipped the wrong direction on the interstate.
Oh, Jesus.
And, it was a mess. Crashes and stuff everywhere.
This may sound really dumb, and maybe I'm kind of simplifying the problem.
Oh, no.
But does your government not grit the roads?
So they do put down, and normally here, I forget what the material is. It's not truly salting it, but they put down kind of a slurry of a mixture that naturally or more easily melts. But this hit so fast. It was actually, there was no forecast for snow. It just was so cold that this quick front of moisture came over. And when it landed, the big problem was, normally the little bit of snow would have been fine, but it had been so cold all day. And this was in the evening that the pavement was super cold. And so it melted and it froze almost instantly. And so that's what made it so bad. And there was a thin layer of snow over the ice. But it was the ice that was getting people, because there are parts of the interstate, and there's never too big a grade where we're at, that it started going where trucks going up the hill or two-wheel drive cars going up the hill were not able to go up the hill. They start sliding sideways. Thank goodness I was in all-wheel drive. And I'm actually considering I may have to get newer tires after this because it was just like, whoa. I got through. There was still some sketch where I'd hit the brakes and it would just instantly go into the ratcheting of the brake assist, as well as I'd start sliding sideways, not just straight, because of the slight bend in the road. Oh, it was. Thank goodness my car also has the ability to manually shift gears, so I was staying down gears to let the drivetrain slow me down with all four wheels versus the brakes. So I was pretty good, but I watched a lot of cars doing not so good, and a lot of, like I said, the big lorries, the big semis.
Like screwed up their Christmas that day from like having to now pay for repairs or whatever from having your car tipped. Jeez.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess enough that I got to Castle Rock safely. Although it took a while. I didn't get there till almost like a half hour later than I had planned to, and it's normally just a half hour drive, so it was almost double the drive. And when I got there, train and stuff coming back, I was like, it is still such a like skating rink. I decided not to chance driving back because I'd seen how many cars were stuck. Instead of staying with my sensei, I went, and thankfully my friend Zenko Akko live in Castle Rock, and so I went and stayed with them. Stayed the night with them, which is always fun because it's what we start our weekends anyways, hanging out all night and drinking tea and watching anime. So did a bunch of that again this weekend, which is a blast. Actually, some other things that we're doing, because we also talk about the Guild Hall that I'd recommended, Guild Hall Galatea, that they are going to start and they have things going with, that we talk about a lot of business things and just all these ideas. We have great conversations. But doing so, we did actually, what was it we watched? We watched an old movie that I had never seen before. Shoot! Zenko! Oh, wait, I can ask. The technology. I have the technology. I will respond after when she responds to me. That'll work.
Was it Casablanca or anything this time again?
No,
was it?
Which is one of her favorite movies, but have not seen yet.
Yeah, because I know you mentioned before that it was a maybe.
Yeah, it's one that I want to watch because of them, because I think I'd appreciate it more. But no, this was like an old. It wasn't black and white, but it was an old military. Oh no, I remember The Great Escape.
Oh right, you told that was last week, wasn't it?
Okay, I did tell you last week, so maybe it was.
Yeah, you told
okay,
me
that must have been the
yeah.
week before. Shoot, what did we watch this Thursday? I don't know. I know we watched something, but maybe we just talked all night. I don't know. Basically, I haven't slept this whole weekend because of these things. But got up that morning because we stayed up till like 4 or 5 in the morning chatting, and then I woke up at like 7 just because that's how I wake up every week, every day. And from there, just went home early basically to get ready for. What was I doing on Friday? I had people coming over for something. Oh, I was trying to help do some 3D print stuff, so I was having to get home for that commission stuff that I'll talk about next section. Anyhow, so we hung out, did a bunch of 3D printing stuff on Friday, hung out with people again. Saturday was concert, but I know Zenko Akko were with me Friday night because we were watching some stuff again. Oh, yeah. Okay, so our friend Amy, who's another cosplayer and part of our larger Tales of Zestiria group, we got introduced to a new show. So it is. I don't know if I've talked to you before about. There's an anime called. It's like. Was it Sukajuki or something? It's essentially Food Wars is what's translated to in English, where it's fights kind of like Iron Chef fights between chefs as they go through and learn stuff. But regardless, the way that food anime is done, it really focuses on making food look delectable and the way it's cooked and stuff like that. And it's admittedly that one got a silly background because it's very sensuous in the way they describe food, mostly because the lead animator used to work on hentai. And so you get this kind of look, but it's not what happens in the actual this anime in Food Wars. There's like a first episode too where you get a sense of it, but after that it never happens again. But it's just the way that it does food. Okay, so this new one is not an anime, but it's a live-action adaptation of manga. And it's called Kantaro the Sweet-Toothed Salaryman. And essentially what it is it's a story about a guy who works at a book publishing company, or one that basically puts books on store shelves. And in Japan, they have to spend their days in sales. He goes out to various bookstores and talks to the owners about, here's this new book we're publishing or that we have. Would you carry it? And that's his whole job, is to sell these different books to bookstores. Well, what he does is he only got this job as a way to support his passion, which is sweets. he loves sweets. I know it sounds silly, right? But he loves sweets in such a way that.
So okay, in the UK, the word sweets means candy. So what do you, when you say sweets,
candy,
do you mean cakes?
It's candy. It's cakes. It's everything sweet. Anything with sugar in it. And and what's interesting about this series they did is that it was actually published by TV Tokyo, basically as part of their advertising wing, like part of the advertising Tokyo and the things around it. And so this show is done in such a way, this manga and the way they produce the show, it talks about real places in Tokyo and all around the area. And so these are real sweet shops, real cake shops, real, and I say sweets because there's so many variety. Chocolates to parfaits to very Japanese things, like a lot of bean things, like red bean puddings rice and bean type dishes that are very Japanese. But what's great about this series, if you like Japanese culture at all, and knowing this, you have to understand that the main character is played by a kabuki actor. What's important about that is kabuki actors, because of the way they do stuff on stage, have to use very huge expressions, and they're very over the top in how they act. Well, it lends itself great to this series because the main character, this coming from a manga, he live action does a lot of really huge over the top expressions that you could almost see coming right off the page of a manga, of their kind of comics. Like, it looks like the characters are straight off the pages of comic books. They're so kind of outrageous, but in real world situations. It's fun. It is so good. And the big key about it, this is one that's on Netflix, and it's actually done in 4K. It's produced, and it has the kind of cinematography that, like, Top Gear is known for, where it can make anything look beautiful, but its focus is on food. And so they have some of these scenes where they show, like, these gelatin convections or puddings, where they have a black background with kind of a lit stage, and it just, like, glass something, and you see it fall and hit the ground, and it's done in kind of a slow motion where it starts to, you see the way it jiggles, the way it, like, slowly compresses and stuff, and it just makes it look like the most delectable dessert you could ever put in your mouth. It is almost painful to watch how good the food they make look, because you're just like, so I want that, all of that in my mouth. It is, oh my gosh, like, I am gushing, because it was like watching an anime, but with all real people and dealing with real things like food. And they get into how the foods are made, and they talk about the people in those restaurants where you get them and why they're unique. And almost every shop they go to is specialty, and they only do one thing. You know, and like one shop just did shaved ice. Kind of like what we'd think ice cream, but very crazy shaved, like, curls of ice that they then cover with different fruits and chocolates and caramels and stuff like that.
It's like, so nuts, because here that sort of stuff just does not exist, because the way the economy is, that pretty much in the past 15-20 years, so many shops have just closed down due to the fact that they're just too expensive, or they just it's too niche. Like fishing shops don't exist, for example. You know, there's no such thing as like a fishing shop. Any ones that did exist are now closed down. Or instead it's just like pound stores everywhere, because everybody can afford a pound store and it's useful for everybody, so they're just cropping up everywhere, and people kind of look at them as if they're this cancer growing due to the fact that all these cool niche things have disappeared, and instead of they have generic supermarkets and cheap stores instead. It sucks, right? Because you want, like, your little things to survive, right? Absolutely. We love the idea of having butchers and fishmongers and, you know, like, I don't know, like TCG stores or whatever, right? You want to have all that stuff. And you want to be able to go to specialist places. Because it also shows that you have a booming economy when you have little mom and pop stores. It's awesome. Yeah. So this one, it talks about sweets. It does admittedly show it in such a way where it's some of the most sensuous things you could ever imagine. Like, the way he eats it, he almost has an O face every time he starts to eat something, or like starts to describe it. And again, it's the kabuki acting in it, but it's so over the top. But at the same time, it draws you in. It's just a fun show. It's on Netflix. It's Japanese culture. It's Kantaro the Sweet Tooth Salaryman. Very much recommend it. We binged, I think, the first 10 episodes of it, and I think there's 13 in the series. So it's almost like watching an anime, but in real life. It is so well done. Highly recommend. Good for people who like that kind of thing. Well, so it's interesting, right? Because it's not animated, so you never know. You might like it, Ken. You've told me it pretty much has the tropes anyway. Like it does and doesn't at the same time. It's so weird. Because it doesn't have, like, the crying face stuff, but it's got over the top acting.
which is kind of
Right.
silly. It was fun. And it's funny because the way the plotline works, the main character at the end, almost everything is like, he prays to almost like the sweets god. And so it's like, only heaven's sweet, God knows where I will end up next for the next dessert or whatever. And in some way, his love of desserts actually enriches the lives of everyone around him. Where it's like, it makes him a better
That's
worker. Because basically what he does is, in Japan, you can't skip out on your job, but like the sales, since he's going around, you can't even really stop to get lunch. You have to do all your sales, come back to the office and eat or do whatever like that. What he does is he goes and he plans out a route, and he knows in his mind he has a map of every dessert or sweet shop in the city. And so when he gets assigned routes by his boss each day, he maps out the closest really good sweet shops all around where he has to go anyways. And so then what he does is when he goes shops, or he has to go sail, he does it like a pro. He goes and does sales as hard and fast as he possibly can so that he can give himself enough free time to play hooky and then go to the different dessert shops and enjoy them. Because that's all he really cares about is the dessert shops. So work is just a way for him to get to them and to pay the bills. And so it's funny because it actually makes him like the best salesman in the shop just as a brand new employee. Because he's so interested in getting it done and getting sales done so he can go get sweets. It blends in so well with the plot. It's just, I'm gushing, sorry. So good. All right. Final thing
you clearly enjoyed it.
I did. Final thing I did that was not geeky, at least that I'm remembering off the top of my head, is I finally got new thick, proper, slow burn resistors, 20 by 5 millimeter, to fit in my Logitech speakers, my old Z5500 surround sound speakers that I have.
Nice.
That the fuse blew during my lightning storm, as best I could tell. Took forever to find these dang things because everybody has these quick burn ones, the fast ones, where they have a very tiny piece of wire in it, so that once they go over, they'll die instantly. So it's to save electronics. These slow burns they're thicker wire and they can handle a little more like abuse before they actually blow. And thus it's good for the speakers and a big amp because you'll have some fluctuation in the flow before it actually is dangerous. So I was so excited because I put a couple sets of these small ones in and they just always blow as soon as I turned on the speakers. Pop, done. I was just like, well, this sucks. Got these slow burns, finally went to test, put it in, same thing happened. Still blew as soon as I touched it, as soon as I put it in. So, I'm thinking I might have to put my surround sound speakers on my list of things that got killed by the lightning.
Oh, that's sad.
It is, because it means I'd have to do everything off headphones. Thankfully, I got my new surround sound ones, but I usually like to just edit the show or do anything else I'm doing while listening over the speakers. So I'm not constantly earphones on because they get uncomfortable.
Headphones are useful, but you only really want to use them when you have to because it's better to be able to not have your ears covered, right? It's kind of painful if you do it for too long and stuff. It's uncomfortable.
Yep. No, and so it's just a little annoying because I may have to do that again, essentially. More things that did not make it through the lightning. Awesome. Anyhow. And yes, Hando, I do have a mixer. That's what I'm using right now. But I don't have a true, output into a different surround sound or something like that. I just had this really awesome gaming surround sound that is what I was using. So, yeah, Kuro, there may be a few things I need you to fix. Several things. All kinds of things. Hey, Kuro, you might be proud. And this, I guess, gets into geek, but I'm currently working on rebuilding a motor. But I'll get into that in the next section. So that is pretty much what I've been doing that hasn't been geeky. I think with that we should be able to then switch over and say,
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
Ken, have you had the time to get out there and still get a little bit of geek in?
A little bit here and there. So I did my normal Pathfinder stuff on Tuesday, and that was lots of fun. We went back to our good campaign. We've sort of put the evil campaign on hold because there was originally a divergence so that the original good campaign could be put on hold while one of our friends is on holiday. So now that the guy's back, we can continue with the good campaign. So let me explain the story behind it because people might be interested in actually hearing what's going on. So basically, it's this world called Portal Knights. I don't really know if it's like a thing that exists elsewhere or whether our DM made it up. I really don't know. Okay. But basically, what it is it's still set in a fantasy world, Pathfinder type world, and it's a world of poverty and lots of small towns, large desert place otherwise, and there seems to be this weird zombie problem coming up, and there's zombie outbreaks everywhere, and places are getting knocked down and stuff. With zombie outbreaks, and that's kind of the problem. So we're sort of exploring around. I got dropped in the middle of their campaign, so I don't really understand what's going on entirely.
Okay.
But we're in this compound at the very beginning, or right for me, the very beginning, and we're hiding inside this tower inside the compound. They told me that just previous to this, they blew up the whole compound except for the tower in the middle, because they knew that this was the current bad guy's lair. So they thought by blowing up their compound, the guy might come back. I don't know where the logic was there, but that's what they planned to do. So they stayed there for approximately 12 hours, came out of this tower after 12 hours to look around and see if they came back, and the place had been wiped. So apparently they brought in moving guys and took everything out while we were hiding in the basement. So that was not a great thing. And then we decided to go look to this nearby village that previously was overrun or started to have a zombie problem, but we decided to leave because we wanted to try and track down the big bad.
Okay.
So we went there. Yep, it was overrun entirely by zombies now, but except also it had some armed guards with long prong forks to keep it's the slow meandering type zombies, not the fast kill you zombies.
So they're able to manage it to a degree.
Yeah. And in the middle of this compound, the buildings all been destroyed, and instead in its place there was this giant 60 to 70 foot creature made of zombies, just piled up and stitched together, and there are all these arms and legs are flailing out of it and stuff, and we were like, oh shit, what's that thing? And it turns out that the big bad was trying to make this thing called a necrophage, I think it was called, which is basically just a giant zombie monster thing.
Okay.
And so with ridiculous rolls of our dice, we had two plans. Our first plan was to drive our it's sort of like steampunk world as well. So we had this steampunk car. We had one plan to rig it with explosives, smash through the front door, and then with some engineering checks with a brick on the pedal, pretty much make this thing drive straight into the necrophage and blow it up, and just see if that would work. We thought that was quite a good idea, but we decided there's so many ifs and maybes that could fail. If it just doesn't break through the door in the first place, we'd lose our vehicle and we'd lose all of our explosives and so on and so forth, right? So we decided against that. Instead, we just had to sneak in and just try to kill the big bad without doing anything else and see what happens. And we totally succeeded. We got in there, and I was hiding at the front gate, climbing over the wall. And there were some guards on the top, but I'm a small gnome, and they didn't notice me.
Oh,
and
nice.
Just every time somebody almost noticed me, I somehow managed to push them over the barrier into the zombie pit. And every time they fell, they all, just because of the luck of the rolls, they either did it very silently or it looked like they just fell. And so they were they started to get suspicious after a couple times this happened. They're like, why are our guards one by one falling to the zombie pit? They didn't quite understand why. But while I was doing that, the rest of the group sort of snuck over with a mass invisibility spell, got behind the big bad, and they just stabbed her to death. Just completely wrecked her, because she had no idea they were there. It was just totally unfair. We were just so lucky by the way where the zombies were, and the fact that we had invisibility and we had good stealth rolls on top to cover up our footstep noises. And it was fine. We just killed the big bad. But as she was stabbed, she pressed this pendant button thing on her pendant, and which summoned this big creature to try and protect her. And it was this flying half scorpion zombie creature thing. And it came down. As it was on its way, we set fire to the necrophage just in case, because we didn't want that thing to turn around and attack us at any point. And so that was good. We killed it. And we killed all the zombies, and the guards and stuff ran away when they realized that we killed their leader. So that was good. We took out this big beast thing, and it was dead as well, and that was fine. We were just so lucky. Nobody died. We got nearly no damage. Just constantly, just so lucky. Every time there was these two NPCs that were in our group as well, sort of hanging out and helping out.
Okay.
They both got wrecked so bad. They got stabbed repeatedly by the venomous pincers of this creature, and they were screaming in pain and having hallucinations due to how much pain they were in. And we were just totally fine. Anytime it tried to attack us, it would fall over or miss us or whatever. It was just ridiculous. So eventually we pack up, we loot the place, and we move on to the next place. And this is what we did on Tuesday.
Okay.
We go up to this new town. We know is sort of like the biggest city in the region. I say city, it's a town of like 15,000 or something. Large walls, and as we're driving towards it, we're like 100 miles away or something. But it's at the top of a hill, which is on a cliff. So we can see it way in the distance.
Okay,
but as we're going towards it, we see this large shape about 75 miles to our left and 75 miles to our right. We see these large moving shapes. And we realize that there's necrophages from multiple villages being made. We only stopped one of them.
Oh.
So they're all like going towards this town. So we had to make a decision there and then. Like, should we go and like fight these things, or should we go and like defend the town? So we decided like we're all driving in the same direction, and let's just keep going and like maybe observe a bit more and kind of see what we can discern. We realized that there's also like a huge army of zombies around these guys, so it was a case of even if we could just take down the necrophage, there's a huge chance we just get overwhelmed by the large number of other stuff. So we just drove to town. We got there way before them because we had a car and they were just large walking zombies, so and it turns out the town like knew this was happening, and so they'd evacuated the region. They're like the lower levels up into the higher, safer place. But they were not prepared to defend themselves. They're pretty much screwed otherwise. Like their ballista were like hundreds of years old and needed oiled and looked after, and we were about to go talk to the leader of the town to find out what happened when a portal opened, and we were left with a decision of what to do, and then we ended there. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I think we're about to leave that town to die. Because it doesn't look good.
That sounds pretty dire, and gosh, there's only so much a hero can do.
Yeah, but it's really it's so addictive. Like I'm almost sad that I only do one day a week. I mean, we ended up doing 5 hours on like we get there at like 7 or so, and we stay until midnight. Even though we tried to end at like 10. It's just so much fun. I really, really do enjoy it. I still kind of struggle with a lot of the mechanics. I really don't quite get a lot of it, but it's awesome fun though. So for everybody who's interested, Pathfinder or D&D, both so much fun, ridiculously fun.
Well, it's been a while since I've actually done D&D, since we've been on hiatus, since my cousin had to pick up extra shifts at Amazon because it's that time of year. And they are busy. So we have not played for a few weeks, waiting for, I guess, for the holidays to basically finish, for people to stop shopping online for a little bit.
So could you give me a little overview of like what your D&D universe is about? Like what story are you guys sort of following?
So ours is pretty straightforward. My little brother Earthweaver is our DM, and he essentially created his own story, his own module.
Nice.
Where we ended up in a small town, a bunch of us adventurers in a small town, a little bit away from any of the bigger cities, a couple days travel from any other bigger city, or more than that, a couple weeks, I think. That's at the end of a couple rivers that met up. And as we were in the town, there was a story about a miner organization, or miners who had been working in some caves where they might have broken too far through or too low, and several of the miners had disappeared. So they're concerned with that. And so we were going to help investigate what happened to the miners. As well, at the same time, there were some stories about this big forest off to the west that had some challenges or things where people were getting lost. They were coming out safe, but they weren't able to actually find some of their destinations. Like it always seemed like they just somehow get turned around. And that some of the magicians in town, or kind of clerics and such, had bad feelings about this area of the forest off to the west. So we kind of had those as two main overall arcs or stories kind of going on. And then we, through many a layer of misfortune and poor decision making, ended up going through... We went to the caves first, kept running into a bunch of kobolds, eventually, a couple trolls and some other larger things as we kept getting closer. We probably should... I don't know where we should have started. It was a mess. Because first time through, we wiped half of our party in the caverns. Like, we poked several times, made some progress over the first couple weeks, just like a game every other day or so. Or every other week. And then we got to a point where we got into the actual mines. Because just traveling was treacherous for us, but got into the mines. And we got kind of deep, and then we ran into some big monsters that we were not cool with. And eventually lost our barbarian. We had a few other issues where people who couldn't continue playing the whole time kind of deal. So we had some ups and downs there.
So how do you deal with characters coming and leaving? Do you actually make it part of the story, or
we try to? And so in some cases, depending on
that's tough.
Well, we can go a week or two without someone participating, and we'll either ghost them or DM will play them a little bit.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of that. But if it's going to be a more long-term thing, if someone basically said that they can't play or don't want to play, we will write them out of the stories. Initially, we had one like when one member was playing with us, that was another remote person, said they didn't want to anymore because they felt too disconnected from the Skype calls type playing. We didn't kill their character. We put them into basically a stasis where they got infected by some evil and have been sleeping in the back in town. We got them back to town and in the care of basically the clerics at the temple. And so that
cool.
they have been trying to treat them now for a couple weeks essentially. In our game time, and so there, we always kind of have that as an option to come back from, but it's kind of this like highest, or we've had others have to go off on their own quest because they got some news from home, things like that, and so it's always leaving them alive and in some state that they could come back if they wanted to, and so that's kind of how we dealt with it.
That's neat.
As well
Okay.
as trying to add a few new people. We brought in a new guy who's more consistent now, where he was a ranger who got assigned when he came to town, was one of the town folk who was a ranger, happened to be out and about when we first came to town, that when he came back, he met up with us when we actually transitioned from worrying about the kobolds and such, and we started looking at the trees and what was going on in the forest. And with it, they basically, he became part of our party as we also wanted to help fix the forest or figure out what was going on. And so he's been traveling us with that since, and we fixed the forest just recently.
Nice. That's cool.
Ish.
That's a good way of doing it. I think it's a lot easier to have people come. It's easier to get people to join your group than it is for people to leave. I think that's always more difficult.
Well, leaving's difficult because man, you want everyone to be able to participate, and the challenge, right, is that at this age at least, and people working so many diverse jobs, having a regular schedule is not easy. There's a lot of challenges where someone gets to be like this month, in the holidays, people are traveling, as well as my cousin, who's a major part of it, is always working. He's been working 11, 12-hour days, so it's kind of like, oh. So there's challenges, and one of the important things is to ensure that you have some flexibility when gaming so that you can kind of deal with that when it happens. I think that's a real important part of just if you are running a campaign, and some people, it seemed like when we were younger as kids, or when people that were in school or regular schedules like that always had more time and were able to constantly do it. Now as an adult with so many other responsibilities, not so much.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, like relationships and work and all that previous commitments all just adds up.
All this adulting. So man.
Yeah.
No. All right.
Like, it's a pain in the ass when I travel down south. That's so annoying because I just need to disappear for a week. By the way, I literally can't make any time ever.
Sorry, can't be here. Well, and this is where it's interesting because I like doing it somewhat virtual or having the capability, because essentially we could play as long as someone has Skype. Because my brother's DMing it via Skype, and then we play using Roll20, which allows you to share maps and everything like that. We have our own character sheets, and then I haven't done this for a while. I've been bad. We have a Google Drive place where we actually update all the character sheets. So if you are gone a week, someone can just fill in or kind of deal with, at least know what your plus minuses are and kind of roll for you. And so there's some levels of doing all that allow you to do it remotely. It's not perfect, but I think it works really well. And some people have different opinions, but at least allows you to maybe while on a trip still Skype in at a normal hour. So it's just, there's lots of ways today, and because people have crazy schedules, but that's been one of our challenges. Speaking of which, though, I think it's time for us to take a break.
Okay.
So let's take a break. This will be a slightly longer song as long as it plays, but it's going to be Edifice, our group that my friend Adrian is part of here in town that gave us permission to use all these. Edifice and their song Reminiscence. As you're listening to Show X here, and we'll be back after about a 6-minute break here, so I can go check on my friends that are in the other room, make sure everything's still going well, that movies and stuff are still on TV, and then we will come back and finish up the show. So with that, you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com, and we'll be back right after this.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com.
tombstone for the humanity I once knew.
You're listening to Show X on BTWProductions.com.
As I literally sit down as the music is starting or ending, as I was, running around hosting, saying hi to people, and unfortunately, doing all this, I failed and forgot to grab an actual drink again during the break. Damn it! Oh well. While looking, although I don't think I saw any updates for emails in, so that's okay. No one has emailed in yet this week. So, with that though, it's time to continue our geek cred. Preferably as soon as Ken gets back. I think he was also in the same issue of saying he really wanted something to drink, and then it was like, oops, and gone. And so he was going to try to make tea before the show, but there wasn't enough time. Let's see if I can be really horrible about this, because I'm going to see if I can sneak someone else to get me tea. Yeah, that would be nice. So let's see. Is there more tea? Question mark to the team monster or Mancer that's out there. Let's see. Maybe those little cries out to Zenko may result in me getting something to drink. We'll see. All right. So then, getting into as we wait for Ken to come back wherever he is off, I can get into what I've been doing a little bit. So I did want to throw a note out there in general to people, and Ken's about to come back in right now, that I am working on a review for a game that I am not allowed to talk about. So I'm under I am under an embargo where I don't think I have to double check when I can talk about this game that I'm reviewing. But I finally took advantage of that. We get emails to review games for Show X often, or in BTW Productions. Unfortunately, a lot of the games we get are not interesting to me, and so I haven't been. I don't do many. Plus, I want to make sure I actually have time to do a solid review. Otherwise, I don't feel like I would be doing the company decency for them giving me a key to work on a game. So I have one in
course.
progress. I just started playing the other day, and I look forward to trying to finish that up real quick to get a review out there. So look forward to that. All right, Ken, we were finishing up with one thing. Success. Thank you. I saw that you were. No, that was perfect. I saw that you were out and about, Ken. I just sat back down like as the songs were ending, and I came back and realized. Well, I realized I didn't have drink. I was like, no, I forgot to get another drink. I am sad. So thankfully, through the messages of technology and having others in the house, I asked if more tea was available. And suddenly, my teacup's here with a fresh batch.
I remember we used to drink in this show.
So you would be proud of me, Ken. I do still a bit. And I was at the first cup because I found that with certain teas that Zenko has provided from St. James Tea Room in Albuquerque. Yes, a free plug for them because it's damn good. Some Crown Royal maple flavored whiskey works wonderfully with a slightly sweetened tea, like one that has its own sweet flavors to it.
All right.
And it just, because what it does is the tea cuts away the whiskey's taste. And the whiskey, when you drink it, it's nice anyway, straight, because it initially you get the kind of bite of the whiskey, but afterwards all you have is like maple in your mouth. So the smooth aftertaste is wonderful. Well, blending it with the tea, you get rid of the whiskey part up front, and you're just left with that bit of maple in the end. And so it suddenly adds that maple flavor to the tea. It makes it wonderful. And if you've ever had a good loose leaf tea that works well with either a thicker agave or honey type or a better or brown sugar type of sweetener, that's the kind of stuff that whiskey goes well with. We've been doing a few tests, because we have tea constantly, of where can we infuse alcohol in our tea. As well as, what you may not know is...
How can we make this healthy thing unhealthy?
Better. Not unhealthy. Better. So, like the cookies we're making, some of the frosting has alcohol blended in with it. And it's not done at the high level because there are kids here and such, but it was done in little Dixie cups where you could take a bit of the color you're using. And Akko was doing an amazing job of adding a little bit of the appropriate kind. So there was a black frosting that he added a bit of tequila. Or I think it was tequila. That is one was a coffee flavored tequila from Patron. And the another one we have is
that's the XO one, right?
I think so. And another one we have is a chocolate flavored liqueur that I think he put in some of the black or something like that. We put some of an orange liqueur in with orange frosting, some Contro or whatever, and they all have come out really good. Like you can taste just that little hint of the alcohol with the flavor and the color. It's like, yep, that's awesome. And so some of the cookies, a little more adult than others, but similar things with like the tea and such. So while I don't drink as much just liquor, I have found many an opportunity to add it to my healthy beverage.
Nice.
Gosh, our tea's so good. So yeah, no, they've been doing that. All right, but we were getting into, let's see, I think your geek continuing?
No, we were talking about your D&D stuff. And
if
you're happy
starting
to
with D&D.
I was enjoying the story.
Well, starting with D&D, that's where it was going. Well, so the key there is, it's kind of gone back and forth with the D&D campaign to the point where I'm not sure where we're at now. It'll be an interesting catch us back up when we finally get back together again. So we'll see how that goes. And it's weird because D&D for me, where I love your stories from Pathfinder and stuff and how much fun you're having. Because for me, it's been an awkward kind of get into where I used to do RPGs much better as a child. But there's also where I think the biggest difference was, as a child, I only had so much time and resource that I can only have like one or two things I was interested in at a time. And so I could really delve into like one thing. I'd get all the comics I could have and just spend an entire afternoon reading comics, right? Now, because I have the resources to have so many things, I like rarely want to just sit down and do one thing for a length of time. Because there's always like a dozen things in my head of things I either want to accomplish, need to accomplish, or just whatever. And so I struggle a bit in that, like, I enjoy playing D&D while we're playing, but the anticipation of it isn't as much fun. Because I start seeing all the other things I could be doing, and some of them start to weigh higher than others. So when I do it, I commit and go, then it's like, all right, yeah, this is fun, I'm fine.
You see, for me right now, I like, it's Tuesday we're playing, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, I wish it was tomorrow night. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. Like, maybe it's To be fair, maybe it's because I don't know these people at all. Otherwise, like other than
Okay,
one guy
that's
who
fair.
I work with, the rest of them I don't actually know any of those guys outside Pathfinder. Like I just see them for that. So maybe it's partly a social element of like, oh, I get to see these people that I've been enjoying seeing and don't get to see otherwise.
Okay, I can see that. A lot of mine are friends from work or people that I've known from other places and such, family and other such. So it's kind of like I do see them often, and we don't BS a lot about anything outside the campaign. It's pretty much we just playing the game. So I don't know.
That's
It's just
good.
weird for me because again, I have so many activities I could be doing. That it's
So
challenging.
how does Earth run his campaign? Is he like very very serious? Like say there's something.
Oh no!
Like,
we
do
have
you
fun.
ever ask to do anything ridiculous? Like you said, or does anybody ever ask to do anything ridiculous? And how does he deal with like? that?
We've had so the biggest one where we have some fun with it. Now, admittedly, we're all growing because I know for like Hostile Prey, my cousin, myself, Earthweaver, and I think we're the main ones who had never played D&D really before. Or the last time we touched an our role playing of some time was decades ago when I was like teenager or less. And so for us, we were using it as an opportunity to learn. Big part of it was to learn. And so we have been, and it's been kind of a challenge throughout because for Earthweaver, it's his first time DMing. For several of us, it's our first time really playing, or since we were able to remember being able to play. And so we've had ups and downs with it throughout. Some that were a little better than others. There were some moments where, admittedly, my younger brother was having challenges first figuring out how to describe situations. He would use the same words over and over again, or the same kind of scene over and over again.
Sure.
Where you're kind of like, yeah, that's what we said last dozen times we killed someone. But he's been doing better about that as well. And for us,
how do you guys actually what props does he use? Like for us, we tend to have like I think it's like a 50 by 50 grid that we have in the middle of the table, and some pens, and he'll draw out like the sort of like map of the area and where we are, and as we like move around, he'll draw more onto it. It's for what we can learn, where we can see
So,
different vantage points, etc.
This is where Roll20 comes in.
Sure.
Roll20 is our grid. It's what does it. And you can go to roll20.net to look up the tool if you're ever interested. And there's a lot of things that are built in where they actually have licensed modules from D&D and such, where you can just pull in a purchased module. And so it has maps and stuff directly for it, and you can drop icons and things like that on it. And in all actuality, you don't even need Skype. You could use Roll20 for everything because it has a communication built in as well. And if you
I
tie
didn't
to
know
it,
that.
when you actually are playing, you look at the bottom and it'll show like your pictures of who's there, who's talking, and you can each have control of just your character, and the DM can do everything. And so it's actually one that I really highly recommend for people who want to play a remote game. Like I'd almost do that as a Sunday night gaming night type thing, except that that's when we play right now. If we were to do like some kind of VTW thing at some point of playing like a role-playing game, I would want everybody to be online together. Kind of like how we used to do Cards Against Humanity when we do Pretend You're Zixi.
Sure.
Stuff like that. Since it has all the tools for it, it's super easy to use. So it has
nice.
all of our things like that. And it's a free account, and the only time you have to really pay is if you buy modules or if you want to upgrade to allow a DM. Usually the DM's the only one that really has to have a high account, because then it gives them more features to things where even my little brother was putting ambient music in the background. So like things where it would have modules in there where he could play to everybody, crickets in the background or things at night or sounds of something in a mine and hollowness or caves and stuff. So it's actually adding
that's
atmosphere.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's a slick tool if it's something you want to actually get in there and really utilize.
And it costs money, you say, for the DM anyway.
For whoever wants to host like the main module stuff. So it doesn't have to, but one, you can buy modules, which gives you all the content directly in, and it's got a lot of the tools to run those contents directly in it. You can the dice roll virtually, so you don't even have to roll locally. You can do the type of
Sure.
D-roll on your screen, and everyone sees the dice roll digitally. So it's a random number generator, literally, but it's there. There's so many ways to play it. Or to use the tool. It's pretty slick. It's that one, and I forget the other company that has a really good role-playing engine like this. But Roll20 is the one we use because it's the one that you can do the most for free or for very little versus other things. And I want to say they have some engines in here. What module stuff, because there's things you can buy. I was trying to see if they had it by gaming engines that they run. Let's see, if we did modules and browse. Yeah, they just have a bunch of modules in here. So I forget what all engines or things they're able to run. But I think they have Pathfinder in there as well. And they have it really specifically like the Roll20 app for the iPad and for Android to make it even easier. It's
Oh,
really
wow.
streamlined. It's really good.
That's really neat. Okay, I may try and sell this to my group a bit more because we talked about it before. And what do you think? Do you think, at least with the sounds and stuff, it'd still be useful if we're all together anyway?
It can be, if nothing else. One of the nice things is, like, what we do is I have a computer that we plug into a television, and we all sit around the TV. And then the DM basically can log in on their own laptop and control everything from their laptop as though it's their DM screen. And that way, everyone else can see just the main screen, and the DM can hide things, can move things, monsters in and out, and do stuff like that, instead of
that's
having to
pretty
have
cool.
the grid in front of you. So if you have like a laptop with an HDMI out that you can do for the group, that you hook up to a big projector or a big screen, big TV, and then you sit back with like a wireless keyboard and mouse that everyone can interact with. You could use just two screens, one for that and one for the DM with his own. Or, Joe just does it from his computer. Earth Weaver does it from his computer, and I do it from my living room, and then lately we've been doing it from my other friend's living room. So, okay, they do Roll20 compendiums. Dungeons & Dragons, Dungeon World, and Pathfinder are the ones that they have built in.
Okay, they do have Pathfinder specific as well. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
Pathfinder,
pretty.
SRD.
I'm pretty sold on this. I'm gonna have to look into it.
Just look at it. Roll20.net, and I only am recommending because it's what we've used. Like I said, I know there's another one that just doesn't come off the top of my head that is also very popular. A lot of people use, so that's just the one I'm throwing out there. But I
Well,
definitely
I think I actually have a Roll20 account somewhere.
it's
lying around
free.
somewhere.
So, but it's one of those that I recommend it because if you are playing a remote game with a lot of different people, it gives you almost all the tools you could want to do it easily with everyone at their own laptop or their own desk to play. To the
That's
point
neat.
where you don't actually need anything with you. If you have digital copies of the books, PDF, stuff like that, you can run everything from your computer and just do it as a tabletop, but from the computer. Because you can have your roll sheets online, you can have the dice in there and stuff, so you don't actually have to have anything.
What about like
just play.
spells and stuff? Like, because I think one of the things that we find quite difficult is, or at least probably one of the most time-consuming things, is that, like, it'll go to my turn and I'm like, oh, I think I'll do this, and then somebody's like, oh, you like say for example, I have a lot of mind altering spells, but we have a kind of an undead campaign, so it's kind of useless. So I'm like, oh, I was planning on like confusing the person, but if I can't do that, I'm not sure. Let me look up what these other 3 spells that I have are, and then I'll have to spend 5 minutes like looking up spells.
So I don't know if Roll20 has it built in. Some PDFs you can get hold of from different companies will give you the details in a way that they're very easily indexed, or you can click through and link. It's one of the things I've talked about every company needs to do to stay modern, is they need to do like very smart linkable PDFs that allow you to go directly to content. I've always said it with people can make online apps that would do the same thing. Because I've always said that for like 40K, what would make it good is if 40K was actually an augmented reality game, where you could actually see, use your models, that's fine, but it would do all the ranged fans and other things for you in the game, so that
That'd
you
be
don't
cool.
have to carry templates and you don't have to like sit there and measure. It's just already doing it on the screen because everything's listed out appropriately. Oh, that'd be awesome. But anyhow, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it has other tools in there to make it easier to actually do the gaming part. Because for us, we still do the rolling of dice, and you have to keep track of your character sheet, and we each have a copy of the manual, or at least a PDF that you can go through if you have questions. I do like it electronically because then you can do queries, which is really nice, versus having to just go, or manually look things up. That's my thought.
Sure. Neat.
Anyhow,
that's very
so
cool.
that's D&D, and that's Pathfinder, and what we've been doing. Sir, what have you been doing that's geek?
Good question. So I've been playing some Witcher, and I've kind of gotten further than Kitten has, even though it's her game,
Nice.
and her PlayStation and kind of her TV. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's got a lot of depth. This game, and so let me start off with my pet peeve with it just now.
Uh-oh.
I have two pet peeves. One is a general pet peeve with the PlayStation, which
Okay.
is that annoyingly, it's the PlayStation 4 Pro,
Oh, yeah,
and
which
it's
is
really
nice.
it's a really nice dev kit, right? It's really powerful. It can do 4K, HDR, really fast refresh rate. Like it's really nice. While I'm actually playing.
Guess what the problem is?
Go on.
One of my thoughts with most of the consoles, it's always been an annoyance to me more so than probably anything, is load times.
Absolutely. So the problem is that it's a hard drive, right?
Yep, spinning butter
Meaning
drive.
meaning it's not an SSD, right?
Yep.
Now, I have a 1 terabyte hard drive with it, which is great for downloading loads of stuff. But you know what? I'd trade it in a second for a 128 gig SSD.
Ha.
In a second.
So yeah,
Like,
no,
I'd happily just re-download games as I need them.
I have heard similar that it is really annoying how like just because I think they use slower drives. I honestly do. Like because
I don't know.
they're doing it and the cost and everything. I truly think they do it as slower drives, and thus
really
they're
don't
able
know.
to like. Oh, I don't know either. I think about that because it's like, why for one? But I mean, it saves money, right? It all saves money if they do. But,
Yeah. Well, the way I see it is I'd love it if maybe in like a year's time they release like SSDs that you can install yourself or take to the shop and they'll install for you. That would be nice.
Well, because I know on the old PlayStation they just had the side thing where you could take it out and plug in your own hard drive and upgrade it. So I don't know why you couldn't, and I've done that with other ones. But I know what you're talking about because you get used to on a PC, especially how fast everything can be. Because we do that, we upgrade our stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my 2011 MacBook Pro could load the same games faster. Admittedly, the quality would be terrible, but it could load it in seconds comparatively. That should not be the case anymore, right?
How
That
long does it feel when you're in The Witcher 2? One, to either start the game or to like transition zones or wherever it might have to do that kind of.
All right, so Witcher is not like an easy click to win game, right? Like you die fairly frequently. At least I do, anyway. I'm not very good at it. So you know, every time you die, it reloads. I think the whole map that you're on to previous state, and that takes a good 40 seconds.
Okay.
So you know, dying sucks enough normally. Dying, then having to wait 40 seconds. That's the real. Like, I don't mind dying. I just hate the loading screen, and it makes me want to rage quit because I sit there, I think to myself, you know, I'm on this boss or whatever. I've died 3 times. I've spent about a minute and a half waiting on load screens now in 5 minutes of playing. Like
that would
that's
be
not
really
fun.
annoying. Yeah, that's
just
a
not fun.
terrible time to play kind of metric. That's horrible.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to look into that. See if a PlayStation 4 Pro can SSD. Kuro says that you can SSD in a PS4. Okay, I might look into that because, oh man, that would be sweet. Like if I could get that, this would like I don't get me wrong. I still prefer PC gaming if I could afford it, etc. But while I've got a PS4 Pro and if I have an SSD, it'd be light years above what my PC was
Well,
before.
it's like why not? Why not make the one you have better?
Yeah, exactly. And plus, if it's upgradable, that's part of the reason why we love PC, right? So I may as well enjoy the few parts that I can of having a console over a PC. So yeah, it's great fun. Okay, so in general, The Witcher is a beautiful, beautiful game. I'm really enjoying the story so far. I shot myself in the foot though, so it's my mini spoiler alert here, I guess.
Okay.
There's one on the second map out of like 5, I think. One of the first things you do is you get tasked with going into this tavern to ask questions or something, I guess. I can't remember. And these dudes come in and they're total assholes. They're like slapping random girls in the butt and making like rape jokes, and they start trying to pick a fight with you. And you have the choice of either being like, hey man, it's cool, I'm sorry to annoy you, walk out or whatever, or you can say, hey, screw you, douche, and then kill them all. And so I was like, be a pussy, be awesome. Be a pussy, be awesome. So it was kind of an easy choice for me to make. And so I fought these guys, and turned out that they were like the main guard for the town. And it got reported back to like the main leader in the area, and so all guards in all towns just instantly hated me.
Oh,
like
wow.
they were just like, oh, you killed our friends. And so that was pretty annoying. So now every time I need to go to like any town doing a quest, I need to find like secret ways into the town through like wells and stuff to go in and and talk to people. Thankfully, I got far enough in the story that the leader of the local area like needs me for something, and so I'm no longer hated. But still, it was just annoying. But
I enjoy that though because it was consequence to action.
Yeah,
they didn't.
I felt no, like, I didn't feel even vaguely betrayed by the game. I was like, okay, I did choose to do that. Fair enough. Like, hey, that's what would happen, right? Why would I kill the guards? Then they'd be like, all right, let's leave the guy alone. That's not gonna happen. They'll be sad about their friends, you know. So yeah, it's really nice. I've realized that the crafting system is quite complex in general. Like the number of reagents and stuff and like items that I have to craft stuff is insane. And I gotta say, the one thing that's really difficult with the game that I'm not that it doesn't apologize for, and I don't think it should, is the baggage space is really small compared to the amount of stuff that you can carry, that you want to carry.
Oh.
So for example, go in like one camp and you kill like 20 bandits or something, and you pick up all their swords. Just imagine you doing that, right? Like in real life, you kill 20 people, and then you try to carry all the things that all of them were carrying yourself. You know?
Good thing you're a magic person. No.
Yeah, kinda. It just doesn't make much sense, right? So.
Gotcha.
So thankfully, the game kind of does say to you, like, yeah, you can only carry so much. And it kind of sucks, but at the same time, you're like, well, it's realistic. And I also found out that the like blacksmiths you can go to who like craft stuff for you, you can upgrade some of them to be like masters, but you need to like complete quests to get them to be able to upgrade the stuff, and then you still need to like find all the gear, all the things for them to craft it for you in the first place.
Okay.
It's like a 3 times over complexity just to get like an item made for you, of good quality. But I love it though. I love the fact that I can like spend like 2 hours in order to get like one new bit of kit and be like, this is so cool, you know? Nice. I love that. I'm so used to being spoiled in games now where I'm like, oh, you advance the main story, here's your new sword. All right.
There seems to be a huge push where people are actually enjoying challenge again. And so it's not the worst thing, and yeah, I can understand. Like having to actually prove yourself worthy and then doing, that's big.
Absolutely. And hey, like being rewarded for your efforts as well is great. I also love the fact that there are aspects of the game that are like, yeah, you can run in and kill that thing that's there, because like a lot of Witcher like kills monsters, right? That's kind of the whole purpose of being a Witcher. You kill monsters. And a lot of the stuff that they ask you to do is like, hey, there's this ghost that appears at midnight over in that field. Can you go and kill it? And you can just be like, take that face value and be like, okay. So you just stop the clock, wait till midnight, meditate or whatever, and then just run in there and try to kill it. But the majority of the time, you'll get minced because you don't know what kind of monster it is. You don't know what kind of sword you should be using. You don't know what kind of oil you should have on your sword for that specific time. You don't know what kind of spells it's weak to that you have access to, etc., etc. So if you actually go there during the day and sort of research the area and maybe ask the locals for what they've seen, maybe look through your own like files that you have on your character, and then you'd be like, I understand. It's because of this. Oh, and it turns out that this monster type is tied to an object. So if I find the object and destroy it, it'll be largely weakened. And then if you do all that, you can show up and just like ruffle stomp it, right? Like easy. But you've also done the work for it in a different way. You used wisdom instead of strength. And that's nice that there's multiple ways to do each thing usually.
Oh, that sounds very cool.
It's a really, really good game, and I couldn't recommend it more. In fact, Graham dropped by randomly the other day, and he started playing it for like 10 minutes, and he said, yeah, I'm buying this game. It's just amazing.
And it's one I've had for a while, and I just have not sat down and played like so many other games. So it's just like, And I've heard pretty much nothing but good.
Yep, it's one of the best games of this generation of games.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, what else did I have here? So I played the latest COD a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, so it came with our PlayStation. Admittedly, Kitten has now wrapped up to give away to a friend because she didn't realize that I was playing it, and that was my fault for not telling her. To be fair, but it was her game anyway, right? So it's totally cool that she's giving away and stuff. But she promised it to one of her friends, which is fine. But I started playing it, and so me and Graham just started playing the zombie mode, because that's just the dumb Nazi zombies mode, right?
Yeah.
And it's lots of fun. Like we didn't get too far. We were both pretty dumb. He kept dying like repeatedly, and I did not understand the objective. So like it was at the very end. We were both getting totally overwhelmed because there's only 2 of us versus the horde, and we unlocked this like hole in the ground that exploded when we unlocked it, and I thought that was it. I thought it was something that we could just like occasionally blow up to help kill zombies. But when he died, his corpse flew in there, sort of thing, and I was like, wait, we can go down there? And I jumped down and realized that was like the whole new next area we'd unlocked, and I had no idea. We'd been stuck in like the surface area for no reason forever. And I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. But yeah, so it was lots of fun. I played the first level as well in the campaign, or at least some of it. And I gotta say, I thought this game was going to be a little. Okay, it's a World War II game, right?
Yeah.
There's a few ethical things there that make it difficult to do this correctly, if it can be done correctly at all. That is. So you're monetizing on what a lot of people today are still alive from, or whose parents or grandparents died during, and it's the persecution of millions, right? And millions of people died for this horrific event in our history. And then this company comes along and says, yeah, but you can pretend to be a zombie and shoot people, lol. It's like, okay, that's easily argued to be disrespectful, right? However, I was quite surprised to see the realism to an extent in the first level. Not in the case that, you know, you kill like 50 guys, so that's obviously dumb, right?
Okay.
And you don't sit in the same place for like 45 minutes on a stalemate until somebody screws up and gets shot, like I imagine it really is like in the front lines in World War II. Instead, it's very fast-paced, which is probably unrealistic as well. I mean more in the fact that everybody around you is dying, there's pain, and like at the very start, like they open up that ship that the guys at Normandy like rode up on.
Yeah, one that drops and everyone runs in. Yep.
Yeah, those big metal cargo ships full of people. There's like 16 troops in there, and the sergeant's telling them what to do. Like, right when we land, boys, the barrier's going down. We're going to go in firing, get to cover, yada yada yada. And he's trying to give them good advice and tell them it'll be all right. And if we stick together and remember your training, you'll be fine. Let's show them what it's like to face Americans or whatever. And the metal barrier comes down, and everybody dies. But you fall over and don't get killed instantly. But you still get shot. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what happened in Normandy, right? It was just everybody
a lot of that. Yep.
There was a lot of just unnecessary death. It just and I was like, wow, they actually portrayed like the kind of the emotion behind it, the loss, the fear of the soldier. Like, holy crap, the people I trained with the past year, my friends, my family, are gone instantly, and that shock, that shell shock, and all that was all portrayed very well.
Nice.
Now, regardless how you look at it, even if it is done sort of tastefully, you can say, but they're making money off of World War II. But at the same time,
it's been done to death, though. I mean, come on.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Not just in video games. Think about books. How many books are there on the World Wars that are entirely written, one tell a story, yeah, but are made to profit? How many of those are made to profit?
See, I figure this is to me, it's a dead issue. It's kind of a who cares, because it's always done it. It's actually one of the safest subjects out there because everyone's allowed to hate Nazis.
Yeah.
And because that's the case, it's like, why are you worried about it? But,
well, it's because you could see they're just making like the soldiers seem like they were having fun, you know, like it was a cool thing to be those guys and everything. And it belittles the cause of which many of these people died for, you know. It could be argued. Like, I'm not too sure how I feel on it. I think it goes two ways. I mean, this game came with the PlayStation. I didn't buy it individually, so I'm not so sure if I would buy it. But like, I was enjoying it and stuff, and I did think it was good. But I don't know. But again, it's the same with movies, right? How many movies are there like show wartime stuff, even stuff that seem like as classic or beautiful films that they still show world wars, right, and profit off of actual war, right? That's a very
because they affect
thing.
So many people that it's still a real thing in a lot of places. But now I don't know, not a lot of subject matter quickly inflames me or anything, and I can see past it to like, it should be just a fun game. And so,
well, in the end, if we do object to it, we should just vote with our money, right? Like, it shouldn't
if you don't like it, then don't buy it.
It should be a case of if you don't like it, don't buy it, right?
Yeah, look at Battlefront 2 for so many people. But well, what I was gonna let's see. No, I was gonna say the thing I had heard about COD, the new one, is that if nothing else, the single player I've heard is beautiful. I don't know how solid and fun it is, but they said it was pretty good compared to previous. I was avoiding the multiplayer because it's just another COD, And then zombie mode, I've never really enjoyed or played much of, but I know a lot of people who love that.
Yeah, I quite like that. Yeah, and it's quite complex. There's a lot of stuff in there that you like. It doesn't hold your hand unlike the rest of the game. It's
nice.
very much like, here's something that costs money. Who knows what it'll do? Like, do you want to save your money and try this thing out? Your choice. And that can be good or bad, right?
Yep, no, that's nice. I like it when it does that. And thank you, Kuro, for putting in Change.org's website in the IRC. Because here in the U.S., we are still fighting with the whole net neutrality BS because the FCC chief does not care, wants to satisfy big ISPs and not the American people. And so do anything you can. At least there have been some senators that have shown that they realize people don't like this. But who knows what else?
Some congressmen actually making public appeals saying that they are actually fighting against it, etc., which is great. And I think that it's going to be really good for their maybe not their pockets so much compared to the guys who are backing the big these big companies, but it's going to be good for their votes next year or the future, as it should say, because like you're representing your people for what they want. Generally, a good thing, guys. Kind of the point of the whole system of democracy.
Right?
Yeah. It's sad that it feels like it's just not so obvious now.
People are too quick to think big corporations and government are going to do anything good for them without realizing that corporations will never do what's best for the people unless it's best for the bottom line.
Yeah.
And while people may argue that, but in the long term it's better, it's like, no, not to a company. It has to be very apparent that it's better now, or else they're not gonna.
There must be like, you must be able to pull the numbers from the stats directly. Direct correlation, which just shows that advertisement works, right? That's one of the things I always point at. Like,
oh no,
people
it
always
definitely
be
does.
like, oh, I never like do what advertisements say, and I'm like, well, I like to think I don't either. But if you look at the stats, we probably do fall to what advertisements are.
I will admit, I've always stated that I support and actually, I commend and will give money to companies that have good and witty advertising. I do the converse of like where, crappy advertising, I figure is the majority of it, and so I'm just like, whatever. If it goes beyond that and I can actually really see, feel, know, and enjoy whatever it is that is being advertised to me, I will often reward that company for that commercial. And I will buy whatever of their product, because I was like, you know what, that was funny as heck, you gave me entertainment, I will look at yours over the competitors. But I do that rarely. How much money do you think
Old Spice made?
I hope a lot, because those things were great. Great.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. Like I don't like supporting everything from advertising anyway, because it makes me feel kind of sick.
Well, I have to in some cases because it's what pays the bills for almost everything, so that we don't have to pay for a la carte everything. Yeah. Is advertising giving up a little bit of our time, so some company may eventually possibly make more money, means that we get more things for free.
Okay, here's a great example of this. Sorry, I know we're supposed to be getting into other stuff, but I think we're having good talks with this kind of thing. The radio here in the UK. Okay, there are
Radio
3 different ways in which. What was that?
Radio 1?
Radio 1, Radio BBC, BBC 1, BBC 2, BBC 3, Classic FM, etc., etc.
Okay.
All the above and more. There are multiple ways to listen to radio, right? You can listen to it on digitally. You can listen to it through FM, through AM. You can pay for access to certain digital radio, for example, like directly. So you can say that sort of a la carte, I want access to this one thing, please, and thank you. Or you can also do a sort of, paid by advertisement, which is the most common one. But there's also the other one that is prevalent here in the UK, but not in the US, I believe.
Okay.
The BBC. The BBC is something that we all pay for. Like, we all pay a TV license, and that money goes directly towards BBC. And that, if you have a TV that accesses satellite, you must pay for a TV license, which pays for the BBC.
Correct.
It's a thing that's lasted just ever since back in the day when we had, only the BBC, and we weren't sure how we were going to model paying for it, because advertising wasn't really a thing back then. So we decided just to charge everybody for TV, and then that's how we paid for it, right? If you had TV, you pay for the TV license, and that's how we fund the BBC and the content, which made sense when the first ever TVs were being produced. But it's a relic that still stands to this day, and that's how we actually still pay for our BBC. But it's interesting because unlike every other TV channel out there and every other radio channel, BBC doesn't have advertisements other than for their own stuff, which usually like check out this thing at 9. All right, back to the show.
Yeah.
Right, like
Well, because it's getting
nuts.
paid for.
Yeah, and it's weird because I really appreciate it. Because I used to hate it. Okay, like when I first started undergrad and I, liberal student and everything, I thought to myself, how dare the government force me to pay for something I don't even necessarily use? It's disgusting. I hate that. There should be freedom of choice and yada yada yada. But the older I get, the more I use BBC as well. I just keep thinking to myself, you know what? I really enjoy not having ads on this, and I really don't mind paying that fee. It's really not that much. That's an interesting take on it. This sort of like centralized.
No, it is because it goes into like here in the U.S. We talk about all kinds of issues that come in politics about what people should or shouldn't pay for, and whether the greater good of the nation means anything or is beneficial to anyone. This goes into socialized medicine, socialized programs of any kind, those kind of things. And I've got several thoughts on different aspects of it. For the most part, I understand the government needs money to run and that there are certain things that rich countries probably should do for their citizens in general.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time realizing that companies need to be able to make money and do their thing as well.
You see, I used to think I used to kind of believe in the free market. I used to believe in it pretty much entirely. But the more I see of how it's left to its devices, it just turns evil.
Well, how much of it I don't think is actually free, and how much of it is really controlled by a handful of companies.
Yeah, that's the other thing is monopolies. Like if we didn't have monopolies, it'd probably be, and we had real competition, people would vote with their money more, and it'd be a lot better. But we don't really have that. So what we really need is some kind of amalgamation between some socialist aspects to control the most important things, like probably healthcare and power and whatever else, maybe public transport. But then everything else can be covered, like anything luxurious, like chocolate. Chocolate does not need to be controlled by government, right? Chocolate can just be left as is. Vote for what you want, and so long as it's not just Cadbury's that's producing all the chocolate, and there is some competition, then there's no problem, right? I think everybody would be happy. But it's finding that middle ground where everybody's getting what they need, but those who can afford luxuries are the ones who've earned them, right? Where it shouldn't be the case that you're dying and need emergency service. Sorry, you don't have insurance. You're gonna have to die. Like that's just sick.
Nope, I hear you, and it's again, I don't think there's any good answers for it. Essentially, right? But
yeah.
I think there's balances, because there's some things also that I disagree with when it comes to social programs where I'm like, nope, that to me, personally, is going too far. Whereas, like, I'm down
absolutely.
with you doing this, and this, but now that you want to do this other thing, I'm not down. And I think that happens, unfortunately, a lot as well. But anyhow, let's see, because you talked about COD Winter 3, and you talked about downloading Fortnite, I see in your notes.
Yeah, so I've not actually played it yet, but there's this game that I downloaded on the PlayStation. It's a free-to-play game called Fortnite, and some people out there have definitely heard of it.
This is the one that's basically player unknown, but from a different company and a little more cartoonish, right?
And more importantly, it supports more players. It's 100 people so far, so it's 50v50, which is
Player Underground plays 100 people.
I think they're about to expand Fortnite into 100v100, though. I think was the news I saw recently. Gotcha. So that'll be some of the biggest battlegrounds that we've seen in a long while, since graphics used to be able to support. So back in the day, like, games were so basic that you could have so many people because it wasn't much of a resource to have extra connections. But then the games became so complex that having that many people became very difficult. Like, I remember when World of Warcraft's Alterac Valley, when it was like, what, 20v20? People thought that was insane. Or 4v40 maybe. But having this is like 50v50 and maybe 100v100, that is absolutely insane for an FPS because there's so much to track, right? There's just so many
until
grenades being thrown, bullets going here to there.
Well, until you play PlanetSide 2.
Yeah, that's another one I've downloaded, by the way. I have that sitting there
that's
too.
100 versus 100 versus 100.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I love it. So if anybody's played it, please let us hear more about it because I'd like to see what your thoughts are and if you've played it and if you enjoy it, etc. Send in your emails to showx@vtrussians.com.
Nice.
But that's everything in my geek cred, and I'm sorry I've taken up so much time with random chat today.
Oh no, that is all right. This is what we do too often, but in a good way. All right, so then for me being geek this week, a couple things. Like I said, I had mentioned just as you were coming back to the break that there's a game I'm in review that I have to hopefully get through. That's an FPS, so I'm excited about that. I like FPSs. 3D printing, I've been busy with it. So one of the things, as I was talking about cookies, every one of the cookie cutters being used right now was 3D printed. And so I went on to various sites and found designs people had done themselves, and learned that it's not hard to actually make your own design. So I haven't done any myself for that yet, but there's some ideas. And I did everything from a bunch of Nintendo characters and themes to some Christmas stuff to some Studio Ghibli stuff, just various characters and things. So it's very much a nerd and geek thing versus just a Christmas cookie thing. And so along with making the sugar cookies, I printed all but I think 2 of the cookie cutters. The other 2 were printed by Zenko Ako and their guild. And so now that they've played it with Guild Galatea stuff, they're looking at doing more. So that's been a ton of fun. I also 3D printed a commission. I should have grabbed it. It's in the other room. But a local boba shop, one that sells boba tea, they also have these little jellies, this consistency that they'll put in some drinks. And they were looking for a better way to consistently cut the jellies than manually taking this big block of Jell-O essentially and having to use a knife to cut it into as close to cubes as they can. So
Nice.
Talking to one of the owners, I came up with a quick idea, although I may refine to a different version after talking to his sister or the other gal that runs it. But essentially what I made was almost like Wolverine claws with a handle that have like 5 cuts in it that I measured exactly out to one of the bowls that they use or dishes they use to make the length of it so that you can stick it in and just slide the whole thing down to cut strips of all the gelatin and then go sideways and do 2 cuts and basically have it into not tubes but kind of the height of it, length, rectangles. Boxes, and then when you open it up, you should be able to slide out and then cut them vertically and be done with it. One of the owners wants a more consistent, like does all of it for you kind of kit, and I think I know a way to do it. But this was, I think, a quick wag that even if they just use the tool I created, I think they're going to have much more consistent results than what they've had in the past. Because right now they're wasting a bunch of jelly by it not being even. So that's the thing. Also, as time's actually, we're getting close to done.
Optimizing jelly.
Yeah, and just a concept that I've done this through 3D printing, which is really cool.
That's
It's
cool.
actually using 3D printing for practical things, fixing some things, doing some other stuff. In fact, Zenko Ako, they 3D printed a plate for one of the things I also did was help them work on their motor for their sewing machine, where they, as soon as they disassembled the sewing machine because the engine the motor had failed, the plate that was connecting it to the frame shattered, was already in pieces because this is an old like 60s or 50s sewing machine. So it's been around for decades, right? And it just kind of gave up. So in doing that, they 3D printed and modeled themselves in Tinkercad, the thing from Autodesk, which is really great software in the web, in your browser. This replacement part that looks exactly the same. They did an amazing job modeling this thing. And I modeled using Tinkercad this Wolverine arm thing in probably like 10, 15 minutes. I made this thing.
Wow.
Printed my prototype, fixed a few things where I wasn't sure, and then printed another one. It's like ready to go. It's like first time doing that rapid prototyping that I've ever seen or heard about with 3D printing. It was actually really
That's
neat.
really cool.
So that part was fun. And so I've got those commissions, and I was tempted to do some other stuff for them. You were about to say something?
I just love where the future's going with this stuff. I think it's so cool. It just makes me happy.
Well, and that's the thing. For me, it's actually being able to take my geek and my just what have been hobbies to do more, because I don't know if I mentioned it, because this also might have been very recent. I now have 3 3D printers.
Jesus, dude. Why?
Because then you can print more.
You'll be printing your next 3D printer, hopefully, rather than paying for another one.
So, kind of. So what I did was, I had my first 3D printer, the Robo R1, that I got off Kickstarter years ago for about $800, when at the time they were selling them for about $1,000. A couple $100 off the regular price after that. R2, I got also a Kickstarter version. Same kind of deal. They're selling it on their site, Robo 3D, for like $1,500. I got it for like $1,200 or $1,300 Kickstarter, so a couple $100 off. This one, somebody I wish I just bought it over the holidays, but they were having a Black Friday sale on them for like $100 something off of what their price is for the R1s now, the old ones. And I've seen the upgrades to the R1s because my Kickstarter, we learned a lot, all of us together, about the things they had good ideas with, but didn't always work. Well, the R1 Plus, which was what they had learned after the fact, they kept tooling and they made a pretty solid printer. So I was looking around Craigslist, local people selling stuff, and actually Akko had been watching it and said there was another R1 for sale up there, in my area, a little further north, for about $400, which is essentially the price of the Black Friday sale. And it said new in box, had never been touched.
Wow.
So I was like, oh.
That's good.
So I went and I picked it up. And so now I have an R1 Kickstarter, R1 Plus, and an R2. All Robos. Nice thing is that R2 has now been printing continuously parts to rebuild the R1, or the R1 Plus has been printing parts for the R1, the Kickstarter. And so I'm hoping to do some things to the Kickstarter version to make it more like the final release version. Like use all the lessons learned to upgrade mine. So I am somewhat printing a printer with a printer. We'll see.
That's cool.
So that's fun. Yeah, I just remembered, like, yeah, so I did that. Also, as I try to finish things up, and we're not going to get to the Geekoscope really today, is that Pokemon Go just recently had another update. And yes, I am still playing it.
Yeah, I had some friends playing that.
Yeah, so they just added 3rd gen Pokemon, which is a big thing for people who played, because there are a lot of people I know who started on the later gen and didn't play the 1st and 2nd gen. They actually went back and played. So this is kind of the childhood for people that are in their like 20s, late or early 20s, late teens, early 20s, that they started with like 3rd gen. And so what it means is there's brand new Pokemon to check out, as well as higher level caps and some other things like that they've done. And so I've just started playing with that some more. Plus, with the new phone, I can finally play again, and I want to go on raids and stuff like that.
So speaking of your phone, can you tell us a bit more about how you're enjoying it?
So far, I've liked it. It's interesting. The facial recognition for unlocking it seems to work very well. The battery life's been good on it. The screen is gorgeous. Every once in a while, it doesn't see my face, which is interesting. It does some odd things there. It's weird because, honestly, the screens have all looked pretty good, so the fact that this is an OLED doesn't make it look significantly different. But I haven't put a lot of tons of content on it that would push it. I haven't watched a lot of movies on it, a little bit of anime, stuff like that. It's mostly just been a phone so far. But with that, Pokemon Go I've been playing. The other thing I've been doing with it now is they just recently came out with Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which is a little Animal Crossing game, another Nintendo one, that people are now playing, which, for those in the IRC, if you want to friend me in Animal Crossing, I put my number in there. For those not and just listening, it's, well, anywhere, 7439-4891-410 is the friend code, because Nintendo doesn't know how to do actual links or friendly names. You have to do weird numbers. But yes.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, it's terrible. But with that, what's nice is it's a good, as we like to say with a lot of games, toilet game. It's one that you can knock out a lot of things as you're sitting there just and actually feel like you made progress.
So, how many microtransactions are in it?
I think you can buy things, but I haven't been compelled to at all. I don't play enough to... It's like anything. I think there's a currency in there that you can buy that makes it faster to do certain things if you want to. But I'd
just be curious, like, if you've got, once you've got like 15 hours into the game, if it's still enjoyable or whether the time periods in between stuff is like phenomenal.
Well, and the nice thing is, so far, it's not like a build thing. You kind of run to different areas and grab a bunch of like resources from each of the areas, and then you find other characters that want those resources. So it's kind of like you're doing constant gather and deliver quests, is so far what the game is, with a little bit of decorating your little campsite quests. And when you decorate, you kind of decorate towards different characters coming to visit your campsite. And so that's really mostly what I've done with it so far. I mean, I think there's ways to optimize and play it more, but that hasn't been me. So mine's just been the kind of the basics. And so, yeah. And I've been enjoying it. It's light.
Fair enough.
And really what's got me playing it more is that a couple friends were like, I need your help opening the quarry, so friend me. I was like, all right, I'll friend you. And so now, admittedly, I kind of want some more people to friend me. So if they use the code, great. I haven't used it really, but I think at some point I might need to. So sure, friend me. That's a thing. So far I just played it for the little gathering thing, something to do for a little something. Wow. So Kuro says his girlfriend Vanessa is level 35 and has not bought a single thing. I'm like level 8 in it so far. Okay, I got to finish up Geek Credit because then we're done. So I've been working on the Elna motor, which means I've pulled apart this old like 30, 40, 50-year-old motor. I've been using sites online to look at what kind of motor it was and how to fix it. So I think I figured out one of the carbon brushes on it has disintegrated. And so I now need to find a place to buy new carbon brushes for an old Elna, some F55 carbon brushes. So that's a thing. But it was really cool, the whole process of me just learning and figuring out what was wrong, troubleshooting and kind of learning. Did this with the Robo when I was helping Zenko Aqua with their R1 back in the day, a week ago. So the other thing, and this is just going to be quick, is I finished watching Puella Magi Madoka Magica, which is an anime that is best described as magical girls, what could possibly go wrong? It is one where all the girls on it are kind of the classic trope of being, they have magic powers, kind of like Sailor Moon type things. However, it's not a fun and happy universe they live in, and getting magic abilities is not all it's cracked up to be. In fact, it's pretty violent, terrible, and horrible. And so it's a bunch of like cutesy girls who don't have a fun, nice life. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So that's all I got. Ken, we need to end the show.
Yeah, we do. Check out the art contest today, guys. It's there on the forums now, and it is that time where we begin to bug you for 3 months straight, and then you decide to post all the stuff 10 minutes before the contest ends. You have listened to ShowX on VTWatchers.com. Please do check us out everywhere. Check us out on twitter.com/ShowX, twitter.com/DocDead, and twitter.com/GoHex for the show, for Mr. Wayne here, and for myself too. Find us on Facebook by searching for ShowX. Well worth doing, because we post lots of memes and news and such there, and it's good fun. People always enjoy it. We're always getting constant flood of notifications every single day telling us people are liking our things and commenting on it and stuff, and it's a nice little community we have there. Pretty much what the forums used to be has moved more towards the ShowX
It's
page.
social media. I mean, not many people forum anymore, but yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. But feel free to go in and post your own links and stuff, or message them to the page. We'll post it as well and say thank you from you for doing that and stuff. You can check us out by sending us an emails to showx@VTWatchers.com, and also check us out on patreon.com/showx. And thank you to who was it? Serathis, for increasing his donation amount this week. That was
wow.
much appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's always a good thing. So much appreciated.
Shout
out. Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you everybody, and thank you for having me on the show as well, sir. It's always a blast.
Yes, always a good time. Thank you for joining me, Ken, and thank you all for listening. Feel free to email us in every week at showx@vtwproductions.com and let us know what you've been up to, what you've been geeking, and things you'd like us to talk about if you see them in the news or things you just think of. With that, though, it is time for us to go and run away and celebrate this holiday season. So go drink some hot cocoa, look at some fun lights, and spend some time with family and friends. But we will see you the rest of this year as we get ready for the holidays. All right, everybody, have a good one. Bye.
Goodbye. See you in the next zombie. Good night. Also, guys.